at Disney's California Adventure, and we're going to see how many rides we can do with the Disability Access Services Pass.
Game on. I love a good challenge, and we're going to see how many of these rides we can get done before the 2:45 parade. Now, because our family does have the Disability Access Services Pass, I won't lie, it is kind of like cheating because we don't have to wait in a standard queue for any of the rides. Now, to be clear, we are still waiting, we're just not waiting in the actual line, so physically we can be doing something else while waiting for a return time for an attraction. We started our day by getting the DAS Pass for Radiator Springs Racers, which ended up being a great choice because not only is it one of the more popular rides at the park, it also just so happened to break down in the last 30 seconds of the ride, which meant we got to ride it a second time. Yes, please. While we were still in Cars Land, we hit up Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters, which is a super fun ride because it's trackless, which basically means that it is a really smooth ride. Rise of the Resistance, but outside and way less intense. Then it was on to Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, which our kids all loved because they all love to spin. But this one can make you a little nauseated if you don't. All of the wait times in Cars Land, except for Radiator Springs Racers, were really short, which meant we got to set up our DAS Pass for the Little Mermaid while we went on Luigi's and by the time we finished those rides in Cars Land, it was time for us to return to the Little Mermaid. At this point in our day, it is 10:25 in the morning. We've made it through 4 attractions, and now we are on to Pixar Pier, where unfortunately I was the only one interested in riding the Incredicoaster, so I waited in a single rider line, which flew by, as did the ride. And while I was riding the Incredicoaster, my family set up the DAS Pass for the Pixar Pal Around, also lovingly known as Mickey's Death Wheel. We opted for the non-Death Wheel version, which just meant that it didn't swing through the air, which meant that our stomachs were saved for the rest of the day. It's a good thing none of us were afraid of heights because it does go way up there. You can see everything. We got a DAS for another family favorite, Toy Story Midway Mania. Then we got to take a break from using our DAS Pass for a little while because all of the next few rides had extremely short wait times. It may have had something to do with the fact that they were all themed around spinning, which of course my kids all loved, but my husband and I were not as excited about that. But I took one for the team and I went with the kids on all of those spinning rides while my husband took a break and got the DAS set up for Goofy Sky School, which we did before we headed over to the other side of the park. At this point in the day, it was 12:30, which meant that we still had another 2 hours before we had to make it to the parade. Strategically, we planned for lunch to take place while we waited for our return time for Web Slingers, so we set up our DAS for Web Slingers, then headed over to have lunch, and then went to Avengers Campus, and because we had used all of that wait time to eat our lunch, we pretty much could hop right on the ride when we got over there. We had about 30 minutes until the start of the parade at this point, so we decided to throw in Monsters Inc., which maybe wasn't the best idea because we were really struggling to get back to the other side of the park once again, but thankfully we did have reserved seating, so it wasn't the end of the world. We did make it in time. And there you have it. Our total count was 13 attractions before the 2:45 parade. Do you know which ones we're still missing?